What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, James Gilliland. Now I met James whilst filming in the USA, and I got to talk about all things from disclosure to channeling to discernment and many more subjects. So enjoy my interview with James.
I'm James Gilliland, and I'm the founder of ECETI, and an author, minister. I've written several books, but also musician too. We have a top, Anunnaki Return is the top on the chart, getting up to the top of the charts in Australia. But about everything, you know, ditch digger, whatever needs to be done at the ranch is what we do.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, great to be here.
In this beautiful desert environment. We're actually here at Contact in the Desert 2018, and it's been interesting, is one word I'd use.
Yeah, it's one I use quite a bit.
Yeah. And your role for coming here, what would you say that was?
Well, I've been coming here for quite some time, and I think it's to educate people basically, and to get people back into the heart and back into their own spiritual nature, you know, and realize that, you know, that everything comes from within, that you can access everything from within. And, you know, there's so much distraction going on, it gets to be kind of crazy out there. You know, there's this group and that group and the new shiny object, you know, and everybody runs to this and that. But, you know, what it all boils down to is contact comes with enlightenment. So the more you do your practices, you're going to be made aware of all these different things.
Yeah, you can't have contact without enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that happens for people with near-death experiences as well. You know, once they've had that kind of experience, then the enlightenment kind of comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had two near-death experiences. So.
Well, let's talk about those near-death experiences. So what happened in those near-death experiences?
The first one, I was 5 years old and I was in the hospital, and I had bronchial pneumonia, and they kept calling my parents and saying he's probably gonna, you know, pass over. We don't think he's gonna make it through the night. And I had a being that kept appearing to me, and she was all dressed in blue, and she would talk to me and stroke my head, and then I'd pull through. And that happened for a while, and then she finally gave me this substance to eat, and it was like kind of like ice cream, but it wasn't cold. It looked like ice cream. And then I ate it, and I was never sick after that. It was amazing. And then the second one was around age 25. I had a drowning, and I went through the tunnel everybody talks about, and I ended up in the plane of bliss. And a lot of old training, like past life training, kicked in because I didn't stop to talk, because there's all these levels you go through. And I went straight to the golden plane of bliss, and it was the most loving, joyous, blissful thing you can imagine. There's no words to describe it.
I bet you didn't want to come back.
Yeah, that's what I said. I asked, how can I stay? And you're unique, but you're one. You're a light being, but there's a greater consciousness and energy surrounding you. And I said, how can I stay? How can I stay? And it came back to me and said, you know, I've never told one of my children when to come or go. That's free will. And then I said, how can I earn the right to stay? And the next thing you know, it comes back to me and says, you can't earn what is given freely and unconditionally. So I had to totally change my image of God, you know, that, you know, it wasn't male, it wasn't female, it was just pure consciousness and energy, and it didn't have an ego to judge. It can't judge, it's beyond that. And so the next thing I asked was, how can I serve? You know, I just want to give back. And it came back to me and it said, you know, what do you want to do? What brings you joy? And then I realized that if we do what brings us joy and we're in service and function on that level, that's the closest we are to source, you know. So it was a real eye-opener about the true nature of God. And the last thing I said was, I want to come back and teach people about the true nature of source, what it really is. And I heard "as you wish," and the next thing I know, I was in my body and they were pulling me out of the ocean.
Wow. And you can't express, can you, even going through that tunnel, just what that feeling of love is like. Mm-hmm. It's a love beyond the understanding on this level.
Yeah, they did a movie about this called Contact Has Begun, and the special effects people that did the movie, they nailed it. It was just exactly, you're going through this tunnel and there's all these flashing lights and and they really did a great job on it.
And I think the tunnel's different for everyone, isn't it?
I think so. I think the thing about when you cross over, you're magnetized to a level that matches your consciousness. And so, you know, if you're, you know, if you have, you know, an open mind, loving heart, pure intent, you're going to go way up there. You know, if you have a lot of fear and guilt and unworthiness, and you've done a lot of negative things, and you don't feel good about yourself, you're not going to go very far. You know,
So when people have those experiences, what they call hellish experiences, it's almost like they've created that experience because that's the level at which they think they're worthy at.
Yeah, their own guilt creates that, and their own beliefs, you know, create that. There's a whole plane of beings that are laid out, and nobody can wake them up because they have this belief that they have to stay asleep until God comes and knocks on their door and awakens them. But the first being that comes to him is the devil, so you can't wake up or something. It's this weird belief system, and it's a huge religion around that, and there's a whole bunch of people just laid out that they're trying to wake up right now.
So even your religion, if that's your truth, that's what you carry forward with you when you cross over. You carry your truth forward with you.
Exactly. There's an old joke about that where there was these rooms. This guy died, and he went by one room, and they told him, you know what's in there, and he said that's all the Christians are in there, you know, and he goes, shh, be really quiet. They think they're the only ones here. You know? So when you get into the higher levels, everybody's working together in harmony. You know, there's no division.
And I bet there is a sense of humor when you cross over as well.
There is. They have a great sense of humor. They're hilarious, and some of the lamas I studied with, these guys had a wicked sense of humor, and they used it for teaching and things too. But I found that humor comes, if somebody doesn't have a sense of humor, I'm not going to hang out with them. It's that simple. I don't care who they are, if they have some famous name or whatever.
But that's quite true, and we sometimes take this reality very serious. Even the subject's way too serious.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, it doesn't matter. I have a saying, you know, it doesn't matter because it isn't matter. You know.
Well,
So-
yeah. I mean, this whole thing where you see some of these presenters, and this is it. This is what's going to happen. This is the disclosure that's going on now, and we've got to get behind this. And it's like, well, whose truth is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, in the UFO community, it's sad, and I've done lectures about this, and I got a standing ovation afterwards, and I was saying, everybody thinks they have the whole truth, and this is it, and they have a piece of the pie, and they're in competition. Nobody wants to put all their pieces of pie together to bring out the whole truth. And I said, basically, is it nuts and bolts? Yes. Is it back engineering? Yes. Is it time travel? Yes. Are there light ships, energy ships, ships that are pure consciousness? Yes. It's all the above. But what happens is, somebody will write a book and they have a piece of the pie, and then they have to compete or with and war on everybody else that's outside their book or out their box. And it's kind of sad because, you don't have to do anything to destroy the disclosure movement, because they do it themselves by not cooperating and not working together.
That's very sad that it's like that, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it changing?
It is, actually, it is. We've had incredible support in the work now that we're doing. Before it was, they wouldn't even let me in the door. And now, because I talk about, I'm going at it from the top down, and we invite the ships to come in, and we connect with them by raising our own abilities, telepathic abilities and spiritual practices. And the ships come, and we film them. And so we're so successful, they can't deny it anymore. We have the best footage on the planet of UFOs. So, and there's other ECETIs. There's one in Australia, there's one in Japan, there's one in Ireland starting up. There's a lot of different ECETIs now that are starting up, and they're all getting phenomenal footage, especially ECETI Japan is having Pleiadians appear in their living room, and photographs and unbelievable ships that you just can't deny.
So ECETI is something you've set up?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But just as there are, many different truths, just as you were saying there in, disclosure, we don't really have the full truth at all, really, on what the nature of where we go back to when we cross over, what this really is.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on why we're here?
Well, basically, we're here to evolve the soul. That's the bottom line. And soul evolution. The other one is some people are here because they have unfinished business. They have to take care of some old karma, or they have some major attachments that they haven't let go of that brings them back here. Some people have family. They want to reincarnate into the same families. And there's some people that incarnated to help, with the planetary liberation and help the Earth go to the next level. And that's on a big scale right now. There's a huge influx of souls incarnating to help the Earth out. And everybody's worried about the invasion. The ETs are going to invade. I said they invaded a long time ago. They incarnated. They're here now, and it's us. It's us walking around.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Let's just take this back then. I just want to go back. So after the near-death experience, who could you tell about that experience? Who did you tell?
After that happened, I was in Orange County, California, and it was so materialistic. There wasn't anybody I could talk to. And I tried to talk to a few people, and basically say you're nuts. And I ran into this little old lady who was a psychic. And she took one look at me and she goes, wow. She goes, where have you been? And she could see the energy and what was going on and everything. And she goes, son, you need to get out of California. You need to go get up in the redwoods or somewhere. You need to get out of the city, And we talked for a while. It was very, very powerful what she had to say. And she just told me, she said, don't expect to get love and acceptance outside of yourself anymore, or approval, because you're on a different path, and so get used to it.
So you had to search within for that.
Yeah.
After this near-death experience, did it set you on a course of researching the subject, or researching spirituality more, researching yourself?
Yeah, well, it put me on about a 30-year journey with lamas and yogis and elders of every nation, and studying a lot of the ancient, text, you know, to find out what really was going on. And what I found out with all that study and all of them, everything goes back to the stars. All of it. It goes back to the stars. All of the religions, everything goes back to the stars. And it goes back to the bearded gods, which were the Anunnaki, which were the Egyptian gods and the Greek gods and the Jewish god. All of them were different beings that were, you know, the Anunnaki basically, that behaved in different ways. So you have this all-loving, all-forgiving God, and then you have this jealous, wrathful, genocidal tyrant, you know? And there's only two choices. Either you have a schizophrenic God, or there's many gods. And so, but ultimately you have to go back to, I always say, you know, who created them, and did they have a mother? You know, because where's the mother in this? You know, where are the female gods? You know, and where's the other half of the father, mother, God principle?
But you'd have thought, though, that something like the Anunnaki, you know, because they would have had high tech, you know, technology involved,
tech,
right?
Yeah.
Where's the spiritual involvement there?
Well, what happened is some were and some fell. So some were very spiritually evolved, and they continue to evolve, and they're actually returning right now to help. And there's some that fell. And a good example is Marduk. It was one of the fallen Anunnaki, and he aligned with the reptilians and the low-level ETs, and he wanted total supremacy over the earth. And we're still under that grid right now. It's called the draconian grid. And so we're busting out of that right now because of the higher dimensional beings are coming in, and the benevolent ETs are coming in and collapsing that grid and liberating the earth right now.
It's funny, you know, people like David Icke, you know, have talked about this sort of negative force, entities, whatever you want to call it. And even when I channeled once, I picked up on it. But to be honest with you, I didn't want to go there.
No,
I didn't want to know that it existed, and I really didn't want to touch that because that was out of my frame of acceptance, to be honest. Because I thought, and I kind of do want to still believe we live in a benevolent, loving universe. Well, Seth said that we live in a benevolent, loving universe.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. I'll explain that. Basically, enlightenment means to be in knowledge of everything, the whole enchilada. And so you really have to master loving detachment, not get caught up in the dark side, but you need to be aware of it. Because if it is coming at you, you need to know how to deal with it, how to heal it, and how to clear it. And I think the half-truths out there, a lot of people have the half-truths and they preach the half-truths, you know, and that's to gain a following and give everybody the feel-good story and everything else. But we have a dark side, all of us. You know, we have wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience. We have past life. You know, I was a road bandit. I was a Viking. I hacked off heads. You know, but I had some other very highly evolved lives too, as well. So, you know, it's all about balance and acknowledging that we do have a side and keep it in check and clear it. You know, and focus on the higher consciousness and energy.
Yeah, because I don't know sometimes. You know, if you've got this dark side of you, you know, can you? Well, you could spend all a lifetime trying to heal it, maybe, but I think what you're saying there is why not just move towards the higher side of yourself and just concentrate on building that.
And the higher side can come in like the big eraser, like never happened. So when you connect with the higher side, like the source, I call it the big eraser. It just, you know.
It's funny you said it, because sometimes when I get a negative thought in my head, I'll just see it a board and erase it, and I'll erase it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works. Your mind works with symbols. You know, it's like if you tell people don't think of pink elephants, the first thing that pops in your head is a pink elephant. It doesn't pick up don't or anything else. It's just the elephant's right there. Yeah. And so you can use symbols to clear things out of your mind or connect to things or.
Well, you know, I've met people that just bang on about, you know, I'm here to heal my past wounds from my past lives and everything because of the patterns that I've got now. And I'm like, well, dude, with 5 or 10 years ahead of what you said, and nothing's changed.
Yeah. Because you can get stuck in a feedback loop. People get stuck in that. And it's, I'm this because of this. I'm this because of this. And I got time to move on, you know, release the past.
Just go towards the higher
And you
path.
can connect with your higher self. We do a thing called transpersonal release sessions where we take people, we clear any attachments out, and we find out who their main teacher and guide is. And then we go in, it's like, this is your life. We read their books and we clear the past life trauma out and bring in the beneficial past lives that are beneficial and connect you. And then we go from age 1 and pull the traumas out, the childhood traumas out, clear those, and then they do an initiation, and people just blow wide open. And we've had scientists come up and measure this and film it, and it's unbelievable, the energy that comes into the room, and people's bodies pixelate into light, and things heal very quickly and gracefully. You know, or you can just be on this endless journey of that takes forever, of bringing up one soul retrieval at a time, or one past life at a time, and it does take forever, and it doesn't have to. You can do it very quickly.
I'm with you on that. Enlightenment can happen really quick. I mean, I know it's nice to tap into our past lives, because what it does, it's like, oh, damn, that's why I've got that pattern. But that makes so much sense with where that pattern came from.
Yeah.
But then there never seems to be a way to heal it. So, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there is a way to heal it. You know, just people aren't acknowledging it. But it's there are ways to heal it. And when you're working with somebody who's already healed themselves and that can tap into that higher conscious and energy, it can be transferable, and then you can heal things very quickly and very gracefully.
Right, right. Had you never had that near-death, well, a couple of near-death experiences, but it was the latter one that was more impactful, wow, where would you be now?
I'd probably be selling commercial real estate in Orange County, and probably, you know, fat, bald, and half dead, you know, more than likely, which is where everybody else went. But it's because of the stress, you know, stress is the killer. But yeah, I had my own office, I had people working for me, I was doing great, and then I had the drowning, and then I walked away from all of it.
Do you know, the disclosure talks about free energy and all this kind of stuff, but don't you have free energy right now, in the sense that you are free and you're out of the system in a sense, and you're doing what you want to do?
You know, I've done this so many times for people. I've actually charged batteries. A dead battery, I can just hold it and charge it. And I did it for Above Top Secret, and I did it for another Shine TV. She did a Shine TV. She had these 9 D-cell batteries that were dead. And I said, well, let's just talk for a minute. Give me your batteries, charge them all up. And then she finished the interview. So, you know, we have trillions of volts of energy in our body. We just know how to move them.
So this was a side effect of the near-death experience?
That, and also, you know, practicing Qigong and some of the Eastern arts that teach you how to channel that energy.
So you're no longer scared of death?
Well, you know, I want to live, you know, like everybody, you want to live, but I'm not afraid of death either. It was awesome, you know, it's like, but your body's going to want to survive. It's going to want to live, you know.
I like to live. I want to try to see this through. You know, you talked about, you know, had this never had happened to you, where you would be. I wonder if there's a parallel universe version of you somewhere, living that version out.
You know, I've had dreams of that, where I'm just a pool cleaner in some, you know, some suburb basically, and things like that. And I really think about it. And what really is hard to wrap your head around is when I first started awakening, my soul, on the soul level, appeared to me. It was this Viking warrior, and scared the crap out of me when it happened. And he was very angry, and I had to heal that part of him because he was very wounded. His family was all killed. But once that was healed, I could bring in that just fearlessness, that warrior energy. So there's a good side and a dark side. And so you clear that and you bring that in and you merge with it. And then so another being came to me, and, you know, he said, I'm your Christ self, you know, and told me who he was. It was Tassamara was his name. And so I'm having like a kind of an identity crisis, right? And I'm just saying, wait, this other guy was just here and saying, I'm you, you know, and then now you're coming in and saying, you know, saying you're this, and then finally when I connected into Ezekiel, which is on the 7th dimension, you know, I was really having a meltdown, and he said, it's all you.
It's all you.
And he said, forget about your identity. It's all you.
You, you're me, and we're everything.
And he told me, he said, the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness on all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse is here within each individual.
It's the same soul having a different experience. When we look at another,
eventually,
we look at ourselves, and when we with another, we mirror ourselves in that other.
Exactly. And, you know, if you meet your soulmate, everybody goes, I want to meet my soulmate. And I go, good luck with that. And they go, why is that? And it's going to mirror back to you everything you love and hate about yourself and amplify it. So you better be clear when you meet your soulmate, because everything's going to come up. You know?
Everything's going to come up, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
well, it's an intense love, but it's also an intense you don't want to get hurt again too. So everything, both comes up.
And when you bring these lives through, when you've healed some of them that you mentioned, you know, these lives were happening now.
Mm-hmm. And that's the weird thing. It's like, it's hard to wrap your head around. Everything is going on at once, and time is an illusion. So time on this planet, you know, it's relative to the size of the planet and the spin, you know, and the sun, you know, basically. What if you get on a bigger planet, you know, with a slower spin? Time's different. So it's all relative. And, you know, if you're attached to the body and the personality, yeah, that you're on this fixed timeline on the earth, you know, with its time cycle. But when you get out of that, you're not fixed. You know, time has lesser effect as you go up the vibrational continuum.
A lot of us, especially being at this conference right now, a lot of us are looking up there for the answer, right? We're attached to the beings in the sky. You know, it's they've got the answers, or what, that people are so, you know, that they just love that subject. But when are we ever going to start looking within?
That's been my question for, you know, 30 years now. It's like, you know, it is important. It's not an external process, it's an internal process. So contact is an internal process, and it comes with enlightenment. When you raise your frequency, you start seeing things. And there's a science behind it too, because our eyes are picking up billions of bits of information, even other dimensions, and our brain chooses what we see. So the more we increase our consciousness and rise in consciousness, we're going to start seeing the other levels, and the veils start coming down, and all of a sudden we start seeing, you know, the little shadow people zipping around. You'll see the lights in the sky, you know, see the peripheral vision lights and starting up and everything else. And a lot of that too is because the eyes, the cones in your eyes are designed to look straight ahead for objective. The peripheral vision sees the other dimensions. So if you see something over there and you turn towards it, it'll disappear. But if you train yourself to just keep it off to the side, you can keep observing a lot of these phenomena that are happening.
So that could say that when we're looking up and we see these crafts, are we looking at the ground of what's around us? Is there something around us and that's an illusion?
Well, you know, the craft are there. They're there, and they, but there's just more going on. You know, you could see a craft, but there could be a being standing right next to you and you wouldn't know it. But if you're really sensitive, you'd feel it. You go, "Whoa, I feel this bliss. I don't know where this is coming from," or body signals and things like that will tell you it's there.
And most abduction stories talk of bliss in the end. When they, you see, some people get, you know, when they're put under regression, it's a very negative story.
Yeah.
Maybe if you go to a different regressionist,
yeah,
it may be a very positive story.
Exactly, and I saw that too. I know with Bud Hopkins, rest his soul, John Mack was talking about that too. There was a lot of positive abductions where a lot of information was given, you know, they were healed and things like that, and they buried those. They didn't bring those out, and you're going, you know, and they said well over 50% of them weren't negative, you know, that they knew of. So
I mean, that's just incredible that they were buried. Yeah, well, you look at most of, I mean, even Travis Walton, you know, I've interviewed him before, and I'm going to interview him for this documentary, but Travis Walton now will tell you that actually his abduction experience was a positive one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you know, he ran up to the ship, they fired up the ship and got knocked on his butt. They brought him in and healed him, you know, and then dropped him off, basically. So, I mean, what, you know, and then Hollywood got a hold of it, you know, and made it into this hellacious thing.
But then we need to be entertained, don't we?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I guess.
I don't think it was any psyop operation to make it that way, you know, it's good entertainment. It makes it, I enjoy watching that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't really like it, to be honest with you, but it's like the, you know, the crop circle movie.
Signs.
Yeah, Signs.
Terrible.
You know, terrible. What, you know, those beautiful crop circles that have all this intricate, you know, geometry and knowledge and everything in them, and they turn it into a warning sign that they're coming to eat us, you know. It's just like, what is wrong with these people? You know,
Well, fear sells.
yeah, exactly.
It sells tickets. You know, and drama equals conflict for a movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So, are we ready for a type of movie without that scenario?
Yeah, we had a when they did when Paranormal State came up, you know, the producer told me, that he said that, we have a formula we have to stick to, boy meets girl, girl gets threatened, boy saves girl, and you got to have the fear and the suspense all in the middle of it. And he said, or we'd be canceled in a moment, if we don't stick to that equation.
Imagine a reality or worlds out there that don't have the monetary system, and you can, I'll do this for you if you do this for me, kind of bartering system. Or we do things, we change jobs all the time because we're trying something new out all the time because we want,
Exactly.
we're exploring what we want to do. We're a funny old sort of group, aren't we?
Yeah, and they also say there is a lot of money in the black projects to bring out some of these movies and keep the fear going and keep the separation going and things of that nature, and that definitely, seems to be the case.
I wouldn't doubt it in some cases, not especially when you see some of the movies nowadays.
Yeah, in Hollywood, Holly stick is the wand, so where it's the sorcery, the black magic, so it all ties in together.
It absolutely does, and so these are benevolent. Would you say no? Actually, I'll ask you this: would you say the majority of beings that are interacting with people, or that have interacted, or that are among us now, are positive?
Yeah, I would say the majority are positive. Unfortunately, the minority are the ones that are deeply rooted in ufology, unfortunately. And a lot of people in ufology are actually, because of their own desire for fame and wealth or whatever, or their lack of integrity, they've gone in a negative direction and have these other beings attached to them, and I've seen that happen quite a bit.
What are these beings that are attached to them?
They're mostly like either reptilian or reptilian gray hybrids. They're the ones that I've seen, and sometimes some grays, that are, some of the tall grays are not friendly, they're not ones you want to work with. And I always tell people when you get into the grays, it's a really gray area, because some are just little robots doing their thing, and whoever's controlling them depends on what they do, and they're doing research and genetics and things like that.
But we can't see them physically. I mean, it's like you'd have to be tuned in. You'd have to, like a radio, tune in like a psychic does.
Yeah, a lot of them are fourth dimensional. They come in from the fourth. But yeah, it's all. It's. I kind of see this over and over again. You look at some of the things that they're saying. They're saying open wide, let anything come into your body. We have to stop being spiritual snobs, and you hear that story, which is totally, it's crazy, you don't just let anything come in. As I said before, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent, so there are low-level contacts, and I see people a lot of time getting courted and hooked by other presenters that are not acknowledging that there is a dark side,
Because that's the level that they're at. Do you feel like some of these conferences, do you feel that there's other actual beings that are half, that look human, but actually they're in disguise in a sense?
Yeah. I think you've seen a little bit of that here too. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen people shape shifting and a different face, and then coming back again.
These are very few people.
Yeah. And you know what it is? It's to me, I don't know if they're actually, I think they're humans, but they have an overlay, another entity on them, and then that goes in and out. And so if you're psychic, or if you can see just beyond the visible light spectrum, all of a sudden you start going, whoa, what was that? And you can see these people kind of shape shifting in and out.
What I wonder what that's doing to the state of ufology that it's at now, because there's never been more of a divide than there is right now.
And they're very against the spiritual side of things, and the benevolent side of things is just not getting the audience, and they're trying to keep it. They're either trying to keep it in the past, so some of it in the past. They're going to keep it within the military, military plane, this and that, or they're going to keep it nuts and bolts, and things. And that's where they're trying to keep it, or they're going to keep it all dark. They don't realize that that's just a little small piece of the pie, really small piece of the pie. The big piece is that there's extremely spiritually and technologically advanced beings that are coming here, and they're very concerned with humanity and the earth and where we're going, and they want to keep us going in the right direction and not destroy ourselves. And they've intervened quite a bit to keep us from, they've taken nukes out, and they've shut down bases and taken the firing mechanisms out of nukes and underground bases. And they took Russia's whole nuclear system and brought the countdown right up to 0, and then they shut it off again. So they can control our technology very easily. They're so far beyond ours, and they've shown us that our nukes are useless. They're not even, they're not going to allow it. They're not going to allow us to do a nuclear exchange. It affects them too.
So you've got this ranch. I would love to come down to it one day. I will do.
Great.
What's so special about this ranch that you've got?
Well, one thing, it's on 2 ley lines that intersect, and it has a long history of UFO activity, and the Native Americans know all about the mountain and the sacredness of the mountain, the fairy lights and all the other stuff going on there. And there's a crystal city underneath it, and they know all about that. Now, the fire tower spotters and the forest rangers and all of them have been seeing the lights for I don't know how long. And Dr. Jan Hynek did a lot of work on it. Kenneth Arnold, actually, who coined the word flying saucers, lost sight of the ships when they landed on the western slopes of Mount Adams, and that's my front yard. So there's actually a door that opens on the mountain. Things come out of it. We have footage of that. There's ships landing up there all the time. We just did remote viewing. We had John Vivanco, who's an excellent remote viewer, remote viewed one of the bigger landings and was really interesting. He said that, he goes, this is freaking us out because they got all this detailed information that I knew and I didn't tell them about it. But one of the details they brought out was, they said these beings are like cats, and it freaked them out that this is crazy, we keep getting a cat. And they were feline beings. They're 5th dimensional feline beings, and that was their ships that came down. Their ships that came down to land, and it was a massive landing, on the mountain.
Wow. Now, why with something like that, right, where you've got physical evidence, yet there's other people that get the bigger limelight in a sense. Now, I'm not that's
yeah,
not.
They
being,
don't have anything at all.
Well, no, where they're just repeating other information that's been out there before, or they have secret informants, and it's like, well, how do we know that what your informants? But people love it.
Yeah, and it's controlled. They get the pulpit, they get the limelight, and they get the funds and everything else, and then it doesn't matter. I mean, they can give 1 million prophecies and they can all not happen. They just go up and they say, oh, the timeline changed, or something. So it's like you see this happen constantly, and they talk about their UFO experiences. I go, well, where's the evidence? If you have these beings coming to you and talking to you and all these, show me a photo, or something. And we have like a mountain of evidence and videos and photos and all of that. So.
Well, that moves us on then just to our final conversation, just a little bit now, of channeling, because obviously that is not based on evidence, right?
Yeah.
But this is a very, channeling, just to know my take on it, channeling to me is what we do all the time. We are always bringing through the greater part of us, which is the soul, the higher self, whatever you want to call it. That's one form of channeling to me.
Yeah. There's only one mind, and we're all pulling parts of it, So there's some people that access, a lot more of the one mind. There's some people that access a little piece of the one mind, and because of their frequency. But what I found in channeling, and I've written books about this, is that there's safeguards for pure channeling. And one is to clear your space, first of all. And the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. So we also have to clear our own stuff up, so we can reach the highest levels of consciousness and energy. And it always has to come through our mind, and so it's going to be tainted to a certain extent. And in the Tibetan Foundation, some of their best channels were doing 70%, so there's 30% of culture and religious belief and things like that in the channeling. It's just the way it works. And I've seen people that are just really in need of acceptance and approval. They want the fame or attention that they didn't get as a kid or something, and they just channel their own subconscious and what they've heard, or they allow astral beings to come in, low-level stuff, and so that the information won't be as accurate. And then they always have to have the shiny new bright toy, like this is the new truth, this is the new ET group coming in, or the new, and it gets, and And I see a lot of times if they don't do their own clearing and clear out their own patterns and wounds and traumas and childhood stuff, it gets worse and worse, and it goes into spiritual ego, and then it goes into narcissism, and then they're gone. You know, you can't even have a conversation with them anymore.
And when some people, you know, are just channeling their higher self, you know, that's the only way they can speak their truth, I feel, is through channeling. Otherwise, they couldn't speak it.
Yeah.
If I was to say to you, what is channeling to you now?
Yeah, channeling to me is just allowing, you know, information to come through, and energy, conscious energy to come through the body. You can be channeling, you can be doing Reiki, that's a form of channeling. All of it's a form of channeling. There's dancing, music is a form of channeling, all of that stuff. You're just letting conscious and energy come through you, and it's just what are you attuning to, and that's the big question. You know?
I've said this, even when you go to the gym, I think sometimes that better part of me just sometimes comes through, and that's why I enjoy it sometimes.
Exactly. And you know, when you're doing something monotonous and giving your body something to do, that's when the inspiration comes through. It's even washing dishes, you know, you get great inspiration, or driving, or things like that. Like in Qigong, you're moving the body, and like when you're doing Qigong, you have to use both sides of your body at the same time. So your mind, you have to use both sides of your mind at the same time. And it gives your mind something to do, and it's a practice of no mind, where you get into that state where that information can start flowing through. So it's all the arts talk about no mind, and what they're saying is relaxing the intellect so the higher mind can come in.
Who are your favorite channelers, or do you have any favorite channelers?
I know I love some of Ramtha's stuff in the beginning. The works in the beginning had some great stuff. Shoot, I'm trying to think of who else. I don't know. They're all percentages, you know. They're like, I get some gold out of this and gold out of that, and take parts here and parts there. But I don't read very much. I don't like to read other people's work, because then I don't know if that's tainting my work, you know. So.
Would you say that we all have the ability to bring through any answer we're looking for? As soon as you've asked the question, the answer lies within.
Yeah. I've always said that the answer and the question and the answer come together. And if we just stop and sit with it, we'd get the answer, you know. But we want to go outside and ask somebody or find it, you know. But the answer, you know, they usually come together.
James, I could have sat here hours with you, right? I just want to say thank you so much, man. This has been a beautiful interview.
Great.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for what you do as well.
Oh, thanks for getting this information out.